freedom, and justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector,
My guide.
my
My
salvation,
By night.
by night
And by day.
and by day,
Through
his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Okay, the meeting's now in session. I'm Sheikh Shatik El, Islam to each and every one of you. First, I rise and give praises to the Almighty Allah, the grand architect of the universe. I give praises to Allah upon himself and honors to the Prophet and his illustrious grand teachings. I give honors to each and every one of you, and I give honors to all that pertains to Islam. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is the Assistant Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he or she lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known amongst the members, is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2, all meetings must be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because it was on the Friday the first man was formed into flesh. It was on the Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for Muslims all over the world, Islam. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or to accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion that may harm his brother or sister. Why? Because Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government because by being a Moorish American, you are what? A part and parcel of this government and must what? Act 5, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey what? Hereby. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of the said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of where? Africa. All members, Act 7 rather, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah, Islam. And before I bring up Brother Omari to do the one-on-ones, I found an excerpt that I would like to just share. It's short and sweet, but it's powerful and to the point. It starts with Friday, March 1st, 1929. The prophet makes a plea to nation. Our divine and national movement stands for the stand for the specific grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I, the prophet, am applying to all loyal, faithful Moors, members, and the American citizens to help me in my great uplifting acts of uplifting fallen humanity among the Asiatic race and nation. For I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. That's a very important saying right there. Members and the American citizens, and I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstandings of what the movement is dedicated to. Very important key points. But I won't get into that because I want to preserve that time and not be disruptive. It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of the divine and national movement. I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names to answer and apply to the free national constitution of what this free national republic of the United States of America. Not a democracy, it says a republic. That's why I am calling on all true national citizens to help me morally and financially in my great work. This goes to the beginning of the Circle 7 when it said a servant is worthy of his hire. That's what that means. It's not use it to collect funds. For without a free national name with a descent flag of your forefathers, there's no national divine title for the government in which we live. This is from your true and divine prophet unto all American and foreign sympathizers. Islam. So with that, I'm going to step aside and call up Brother Omari Bey and let him do our Moorish children one-on-ones. Thank you, Brother Omari. Islam.
Islam, family. First I rise, giving praise to the Almighty, Father God Allah. We give honors to his prophet, Nobuju Ali. We give honors to Temple Number 10. We give honors to the Grand Sheikh and Sheikhs of Temple Number 10. We give honors to all Moors in attendance today. And I want to give honors to all Moors online. Islam? Islam. Gratitude. We're going to get into Quran questions for Moorish children. And also, for those who don't know, this is our question and answer period. So if you have any questions or anything you want to build on, just raise your hand and we can do so. 1, who made you?
Allah.
2, who is Allah?
Allah, the Father of the universe.
3, can we see him?
No.
4, where's the nearest place we can meet him?
In the heart.
5, who is Nobuju Ali? 6, what is a prophet? 7, what is the duty of a prophet? 8, who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America? 9, what year was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
1913 AD.
10, where?
New Jersey.
11, where was Nobuju Ali born?
In the state of North Carolina in 1886.
12, what is his nationality?
Moorish American.
13, what is your nationality?
Moorish American.
14, why are we Moorish Americans?
Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America.
15, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
For the uplifting of humanity.
16, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish American?
By teaching them to feed themselves.
17, what is our religion?
Islam.
18, is that a new or is that an old time religion?
Old time religion.
19, what kind of flag is the Moorish?
It's a red flag with a 5-star, pointing star, green star in the center.
20, what do the 5 points represent?
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
21, how old is our flag?
It is 50,000 years old.
22, which is our holy day?
Friday.
23, why?
Friday is the day of the resurrection And it was on Friday when he departed out of flesh.
24. Who is Jesus?
He was
He
a
is a
prophet of
prophet of
Allah.
Allah.
25. Where was he born?
And the
Bethlehem,
Bethlehem
Judah,
of
in the house
Judah,
of David.
26. Who were his father and mother?
Joseph and Mary.
27. Will you give and brief the line genealogy through which Jesus came?
Some of the great fathers to Jesus came on
Abraham,
Boaz,
Ruth, Jesse, David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph and Mary.
Son. 28. Why did Allah send Jesus to this earth?
His seed was his rights, portion of the house.
29. How long has that been?
About 2,000 years ago.
30. What was the nationality of Ruth? 31. What is the modern name for Moabites?
Moroccans.
32. Where's the Moroccan Empire? 33. What is the modern name for a Mexican?
Africa.
34. What is the title given to our ruler in Morocco?
Sultan.
35. Where do we get the name Jesus?
From the east.
36. What does the name Jesus mean?
Justice.
37. Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin.
38. What is an angel?
Angels
are manifested in human flesh.
39. What are angels used for?
Carry messages to
For cause of worlds or nations.
40. What is our prophet to us?
Allah is sent to bring us the everlasting gospel.
41. What is the everlasting gospel?
It is the saving power of Allah's prophets.
42. What is the covenant of the great God Allah?
Honor our father and our mother, and that days of long on the earth realm which the Lord that Allah has given you.
43. At what age did Jesus begin to teach?
At the age of 12,
44. Where did he teach?
India, Africa, and Europe.
45. How long did he teach?
18 years.
46. What did Jesus say that would make you free?
Truth.
47. What is truth?
Truth is art.
48. What is ought?
Art is law.
49. Can truth change?
Truth cannot change or pass away.
50. What other names do we give to truth?
Holy breath.
51. What have you to say about holy breath?
All we can say is it is great. It is good. It was. It is, and ever more to be. Amen.
52. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed?
In the Garden of Eden,
53. Where's the Garden of Eden?
in the land of Canaan, the city of Mecca.
54. What is the modern name for the Garden of Eden?
Mecca.
55. What is the name of the first physical man?
His name cannot be used
Only by the executive rulers of the AC of the MSTFA.
56. What are the words of AC of the MST of A?
the dark chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America, third heaven.
57. Who were Adam and Eve?
There's fathers of the human family, atheists and Muslims.
58. Where did they go?
They went to Asia.
59. What is the modern name given to their children?
Asiatics.
60. Who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep unbelievers away?
Angels.
61. What is the modern name for those angels?
Asiatics.
62. What is the shade of their skin?
Olive.
63. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels?
Yes, I have the same father and mother.
64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
65. What is the devil sometimes called?
Lower self.
66. How many selves are there?
2.
67. Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
68. What people represent the higher self?
Angels who protect the city of the holy city of Mecca.
69. What people represent the lower self?
Those who cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teachings.
accept their teachings.
70. What is the higher self?
Higher self, mother of virtue, the harmonies of light, the breach justice, mercy, and right.
71. Can the higher self pass away?
No.
72. Why?
Because there's a lying man.
73. What does the lower self breed?
Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms.
74. What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him?
Where are you going, Satan?
75. What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self?
I'm going to and fro the earth. Soon my labor power.
76. Has he finished his task of devouring?
Yes.
Yes.
77. When was his time declared out?
We nailed Jesus to the cross.
78. What were the last words that Jesus uttered?
It
It
is
is
finished.
finished.
79. What did he have reference to?
Yeah, reference to the end of Satan.
Satan.
80. Did Jesus say that he returned to conquer him?
Yes.
Yes.
81. What is the name of the person whom into Jesus was first reincarnated?
Prophet Muhammad, the conqueror.
82. Was Satan to be bound in?
Satan
Satan
was
was bound in parts.
83. When was the head of Satan taken off?
1453 by Satan.
84. By whom?
Muhammad.
85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774.
Black,
Black colored Ethiopian.
86. Negro.
a name given to a river in West Africa by the Moors because it contains black water.
87. What is meant by the word black?
Black
Black
was science and death.
88. What does the word colored mean?
Color means anything that has been painted,
Stained,
stained, varnished, or dyed.
89. What does Ethiopia mean?
Ethiopia means something divided.
90. Can a man be Negro, black, or colored, or Ethiopian?
No.
91. Why?
Because the man is made in the likeness of Allah.
92. What title does Satan give himself?
God.
God.
93. Will you define the word white?
White means purity. Purity means God. And God means ruler of the land.
94. To whom do we refer at times being the great God?
Allah.
95. Is the devil made in the image and likeness of Allah?
No, he is the shadow of our lower self and will pass away.
96. Who made the devil?
Elohim.
97. Who is Elohim?
Elohim, the seven great spirits, the everything that was, is, and ever want to be.
98. What is Elohim sometimes called?
The seven eyes of Allah.
99. How many days are in a circle?
7 days.
100. How many days are in creation?
7 days.
101. According to science, how many days are there in a year?
7 days.
Islam. So we're going to start Moors. Islam, how everybody doing today?
Praise Allah. Alhamdulillah.
All is well. Feeling great. So we're going to start with where we left off last week. Did anyone do their homework or remember the homework? How are we part and parcel of this government?
Well, yes, I did. I can speak for it.
Islam, Brother Shati, you did the homework?
Yeah, but I mean, you mind?
Islam, just want to give a brief.
Yes, I did the homework, but I already did it from my own research and already knowing part and parcel. You know, we are what the land is as it is above, so it is below. What's in the heavens is inside of our heavenly bodies. We're planets, and what's in this, the planets in the sky is inside of us too. So according to our ancestral trace back, the land and us is one. You know what I'm saying? So that makes us part and parcel. You can't be part and partial. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be part and parcel. That's what ties us to our names and ancestry. Being part and parcel. The land and us is one, because when the body returns, it returns back to the earth, which the earth is mother. You know what I'm saying? And father. You know what I'm talking about? So without shape or void, from the earth we came, from the earth we shall return. That's part and parcel.
Islam. All right. Gratitude for that. Anyone else? So I'll begin to give my demonstration on how we are part and parcel of this government. I want to start off reading. So the first thing that came to me in mind of even thinking about this was the word citizen. So I have the Black's Law Dictionary, 3rd edition, and I just want to read in 3rd edition's Black's Law, what is a citizen? In general, citizen, a member of a free city or drow society, possessing all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed by any person under its constitutional and government, under its constitution and government, and subject to the corresponding duties. What that was act for, by being Moorish American, must live life accordingly.
Yes.
The term appears to have been used in the Roman government to designate a person who had freedom of the city and the right to exercise all political and civil privileges of this government. One who, as a member of a nation or body politic of the sovereign state, owes a light allegiance to and many claim reciprocal protection from its government. The last statement, a member of a civil state entitled to all its privileges. One of the sovereign people, a constituent member of the sovereignty synonymous with the people. Islam? So how are we part and parcel of the said government? So just dealing with the definition of a citizen, can anyone add on how they perceive that?
Yeah.
I'll read it again. A member of a free city or juror society possessing all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed by any person under its constitution and government, and subject to the corresponding duties. One who is a member of a nation or body politic of the sovereign state owes allegiance, and two, may claim reciprocal protection from its government. A member of the civil state entitled to all its privileges. One of the sovereign people, a constituent member of the sovereignty synonymous of the people.
These. Okay.
Islam, Brother Shakim, want to exercise?
Yeah, and rise, give praise to Allah, His Holy Prophet of the Ali. Honors to the sheep, grand sheep, and all those attendants. So you said the definition basically being a sovereign. So according to the notes from last week, part and parcel is an essential portion. So it means we are necessary to complete the. We are a necessary part of the definition of citizen, because it says, I'm paraphrasing, it says it's a sovereign portion or something to that effect.
One of its sovereign people.
Okay. So our portion is necessary because the quote unquote Europeans are not sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to be citizens, you need that balance. So since we are the actual sovereigns, so we become that necessary essential portion.
Can you tell me how?
Okay, well I'm kind of getting plus so now I digress.
Okay, what is your free national name?
My free national Shakim El Bay.
Or free national name? Moorish American. Right. So one who is a member of a nation or a body politic of the sovereign state. So one who is a member of, so your membership or your free national name, Moorish American, determines where your citizenship lies, or how your citizenship is determined.
According to the free national.
Correct. Islam. Brother Shati.
Yeah. Thank you, Shakim. I would like to help him out because he was right on point.
Islam.
You are what your ancestors are, without a doubt, contradiction. By being a Moorish American, you are part and a parcel of the said government, and you are the descendants of the ancient Moroccans. So we are Moorish Americans, making us true national citizens according to the Republic Constitution of these United States of America. So it's just so many different ways that you can tie yourself right back into it that can be undisputable.
Islam.
Islam.
And just really fast before you Bill, before I go, I just want to dive into Camelback off of Brother Shatik, chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia. What does Ethiopia mean? Which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. The dividing of the land between father and son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest, was his father's dominion of Africa. And in later years, many of them brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. So through citizenship and going back to what you are, what your forefathers are without doubt or contradiction, is how you could go back in chapter 47 and also show how you're a part and parcel of the said government and the lands. And see, I'm just going to start from the bottom and build it up. So we started with citizen. Then I kind of walked us back a couple thousand years of how peoples came from one place and traversed here. And then we're going to go into divine warning from the prophet. The word Negro deletes to the Latin word nigger. The same word is colored, dilutes to anything that is painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. That's the 101 answer. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have been never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Though your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth, and that are recognized by the said national government in which they live. So again, that's another reason how the prophet showed that we are part and parcel of the said government. Anyone needs me to read it again? Brother Flango, you have something to exercise?
Yeah.
Please do.
First, I rise and I give all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe. Give honors to Noble Drew Ali, his prophet. Honors to Marcus Darby, the harbinger. Honors to the Grand Sheikh. Honors to Sheikh Nika. Honors to Shatik. Sheikh Amari. All the Sheikhs, and everybody here, and everything pertains to Islam.
Islam.
I wanted to say to Camelback off of what you were saying about that we are part and parcel. The prophet said that he wanted us to bring us back into the constitutional form of government.
Yes.
And in our divine constitution, which is the constitution for our government, in Act 4 says all members must observe these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government. Because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. And then Noble Drew Ali goes into Act 6, showing us that we are part and parcel of the said government again. So it's showing previous, like the Grand Sheikh said before, is previous. When it's said, it's like it's previous. So the same government that the Noble Drew Ali set up now is the same government that we're coming under with the United States of America, because that's how we'll be part and parcel, because we have our own government, which is Moorish, and then we have American. So putting those two together, that's how we're part and parcel of the said government. And just merging them together so that we have a nationality, because with the definition that you read, it's saying that it's members of a society, a jural society. And being a member of a jural society, which is a body politic, which is a corporation, because all governments are corporations, as the Grand Sheik once said. So that also is making us part and parcel of the land and of the government.
Islam, just to clear, just kind of camel back on everything that you're saying. So it's only one government, United States of America, and we are Moorish Americans because we are descendants of ancient Moroccans born in America. That's why we're Moorish American. It's only the United States of American government. And how Noble Drew Ali set it up to be a part of it is, like I said, from Brother Shakim, is your free national name, which is your nationality. And then you get your descent name, which is your family name. So in the Divine One, he also says if Italians, Greek, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon other American citizens alike. So Noble Drew Ali put us back in that fold. Our free national name, Moorish American, family name, Bays, Days, Als, Alis, Als, etc. Right? Those are the descent names of this nation, of those people. And then just to camel back again, before I pass it to Grand Sheik, is again, I'm glad that you brought it up, was Act 6. So he kind of summed it all up in Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. We are teaching the people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. So not only did he give us back our free national name and descent name, but also told us exactly who we were. Because pay attention to why he worded it the way that he did. We are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders. I mean that I wasn't brought from anywhere. My identity was changed.
Right.
The same thing like when a Chinese person would come over here with the family name Lee, you automatically knows his descent. Now he could be another Lee, they may not be related, but they know exactly that they come from the same place. That's supposed to be the same signs when Moors encounter other Moors. Obey. I may not know you physically, but we both belong here. We know where we're from. We know what government we have allegiance to. Certain things are already understood under this umbrella. And it's the same thing as being black. Your last name Jones, you know exactly where that particular person sits. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name, nationality, to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, their prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. So not only did we not know who we were, but we were committing a sin by not even knowing who we were. And that's part of what we pay for today. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. That's why I brought up chapter 47, the story between Ham and Cush. So you can always tie back how we are part and parcel of this said government. Always have been, always will be. Islam. Now bring up Grand Sheik, demonstrate next. Thank you.
So,
Well, I was enjoying that.
Yeah, I was trying to
Stick me with the whole
Yeah,
lesson.
Islam.
Wow.
Now I praise Allah for that lesson and the brother and the homework. Islam. Before we go into another phase of that lesson, did anyone have any questions on the Noble's demonstration or the topic itself? Because I know we have some members that was not here last week, but is anyone not familiar with the homework that was pointed out? Islam? Brother Amari, would you mind just reiterating what the lesson, the homework lesson was?
So last week's demonstration was Moorish Americans being part and parcel of this government, and also identifying what is the true government of this land. And the homework was, how are we part and parcel of this said government?
Islam.
Islam.
Sister Farasha, can you hear me a highlighter, please? Thank you, Noble. Islam. Islam, Morris.
Islam.
So I'm gonna just reiterate briefly last week's demonstration. It was the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I just held this up because this is a brief. It's an illustration. It's a document. It's an article, etc. This is not the divine constitution. This is just a replica of it in words and reduced to writing. But in a more specific application, we are the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. Now that sounds good. However, it's true. And it's not to be taken as a deep statement, but really be taken literally. We are. And the brief and the documents is just to become that.
Right.
No different from any writing or affidavit or even what we refer to as scriptures. Is all written as a brief to man himself. And the beauty of our organization and our lessons is we really take things in a literal sense where we're trying to become that. So we're strict observers. We are extremists, as the media will call us, but we're extremists to the point where we're really taking the words to the extreme. And because of that, our organization is so strict that it deters a lot of people from it, because we adhere to the principles, which are very strictly preserved, and most people takes that more as a fear or as a foe, where they don't want to really deal with it or become members of the organization because they don't want to face that type of adherence to those principles. So they drift away from it. Some study it, read it, play with it at their own rate. But to really become members, Drew Ali is holding us to a strict adherence to these principles. And those of us who committed oblige themselves, it's a beauty, because what it does, it takes us out our comfort zone. And it forces us to adhere to these principles that we have been lacking of. So it forces us to become better citizens by default, even if that's not your agenda. It forces us to become better citizens just because of the application of doing what others do.
Absolutely.
Now, a term my mother used to always say, monkey see, monkey do. So that's an old term that she used to always say, but she was using it more as because, we following what the neighbors doing. We hanging out with the Joneses down the street and this, that, and the third. So she was always using it to challenge the activities that was going on in the house. But I'm using it also to just say that this is how we are accustomed to acting in our society is monkey see, monkey do. And it's like one wave pushing on another wave, like the Quran says, till they both are behind one another. It's probably the wind, man. So by just being accustomed to this westernized society is monkey see, monkey do.
That's right.
We're taught and trained and programmed just by seeing what others did or what they're doing. That becomes our lessons. It's how a person could not go to school at all and can make it in society based off of the expectations of that same community without learning how to read and write and do certain things, because they're just going to follow suit of what another person do. They mirror image the person that they see. And what Drew Ali has taught us is that became that Negro, Black, and Color, the Ethiopian demonstration. That monkey see, monkey do. So you don't sign up to be Negro, Black, and Color from that perspective. You animate that, activate it just by carrying out the expectations of that.
True. True.
So,
Absolutely.
so last week we touched up on the Constitution as in whole, how the acts, it's Act 1, Act 2, all the way down to Act 7. The word act is also synonymous with the word article and interchangeably used according to time and administration. So Drew Ali, as you notice, takes us back to an old time reference, ancient days of the forefather. We go back into time like masterminds do. So when he introduced words to us, he took us back to an earlier time reference. So the word act was used in ancient law, in ancient administration law, ancient government law. If you look it up, they will tell you ancient English law, ancient English statutes. So we might try to mirror the words articles because we think articles predate, what we're dealing with, when articles is just a modern day usage of statutes and rules and regulations, where acts predate articles. However, they both pretty much mean the same, just again, letting us know why we use what we use. And there's signals and codes, because when we reiterate these words, statesmen and politicians, people who know your point of reference where you're going back to. So if you start talking about your acts, then they exactly know what you're talking about. Not just action, meaning to do, but acts is a reference of law. It's no different from Constitution. Together we form a Constitution. The Constitution means us together. The word Constitution, the root word is con, C-O-N. Or if you want to go further, co, C-O, co. Some of us might know it from co-defendant, which just means together with or together. We were together. So you see how they use this in against us, but we might not necessarily know why. So as soon as someone say co-defendant, well, Who was I with? What are you saying? Same thing with Constitution. If for a body of law to be called Constitution, it means together with. So who are parties to that is the next question in that law. Who is a party to the Constitution? That's the number one key question. That's what the homework is about.
That's right.
But that's what citizenship is about. That's what laws is about. Laws breaks down, we know that the Constitution is referred to as the supreme law of the land, correct?
Yes.
So the Constitution constitutes everything. It's the nucleus of everything that you're dealing with, all contracts, all agreements, all laws, because laws are agreements. But in order for a law to exist, it had to be made up pertaining to somebody. Who are those people? When you say government, you're talking the same thing. And I'm going to get into what the word government means in a minute. So, giving us a little bit more clarity on this divine constitution. Symbolically, we're going to be speaking esoterically for a second. Within the 7 acts, this is an illustration where Drew Ali is standing in the middle of the 7 acts.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not just drawn this way because it looks good. It's a code. And it's metaphysically letting us know and letting other people know, whoever it may be. And the symbols, the gestures of symbols and the clothing, the apparel, the fez, everything he's dealing with right here, it's a statement in government and in law. And although this says Moorish Science Temple, this symbolism and the metaphysical application of this pertains to many different people, many different lands, speak many different languages, from a metaphysical application, because it's referred to as the divine constitution. Divine means God. So it's really first God's constitution. And then when it's reduced to humanity, it becomes the bylaws. So there's applications of this on many different dimensions and planes. And that's just showing us from a metaphysical perspective why it's even worded like that. Because when someone starts to say, well, they don't have no obligation to this, or they don't recognize this, then that's something you have to check them with, because this pertains to the European too.
Absolutely.
If you understand that, but you have to invoke that and show them their obligation to it. It's a statement Brother Sam Bay made in the Constitution he wrote, where he says that if you violate, or if the Europeans or you violate another constitution, you violate your very own. Because all constitutions are connected and they become one document.
That's right.
So we used to teach this, that you could take this constitution and staple it to the United States of America's Constitution, and you can consider that one document.
That's right.
You could do anything you want. However, if you're challenged, you have to explain how that's applicable. That's what we're going to be going over today. Any questions so far? Islam, brother.
Islam, Grand Sheikh. I just wanted to remind you and give praise.
Islam. Thank you for that. Formality and protocols. I give praise all the time. But for formality speaking, I will rise in the name of Allah, giving praise to the Almighty and honors to our Prophet, Nabi Ali. Honors to all of you. Islam.
Islam, Grand Sheikh?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind,
Yeah.
and you held up that document, I'd just like to further clarify.
Yes.
You know, from a from a Moorish
Mhm.
circle 7
Yeah.
o'clock standpoint.
Yeah.
The prophet standing right in the middle
Mhm.
of the 7 articles, dressed like that. Yes,
Mhm.
there's an spiritual and esoteric symbolic meaning. He's representing the 8th house of Scorpio, death and regeneration, to show that we are regenerated through our ancestry. You know what I'm saying, but I mean, I know that gets
Absolutely.
into. So I'm just going to stop it right there.
All right. Thank you for that.
Islam.
You're absolutely correct. Islam. So there's many different applications of the divine constitution, but we're going to go in brief. We're going to speed it up and go more into Act 6 is where the nucleus and the focus point is at. Islam, does anyone have the We're going to need the Constitution of the United States of America. If you have your own, keep it out. But we're going to be going through that. I know we got phones nowadays. Old school speaking, we used to always, we call them travel documents. We used to always keep our Moorish credentials with us, definitely Moorish guide literature. I have one. I'm just saying I'm gonna go over it so everybody pull theirs out. Constitution of the United States, every citizen should always have with them. You know how you ride, you see people on the back of their car, on the back deck, they always got their Bible back there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people who are Christians or whatever, Islam, which is cool. But in your conveyance, you should always have a copy of the Constitution in your conveyance at all times. We used to always have pocket-sized constitutions as well, too. Before the phones became popular, you can use your phone in court. Just letting you know. That's not what this is about here. But if it's for reference to something and you need to go online, you can use that. But these are things that you always have to have with you. If you don't have a conveyance and you walk, travel, public transportation, always have access to this type of information. You never know when you're challenged on something and you need to use it as a point of reference to laws, citizenship, questioning anything. You know, it's going to become a time where you're going to be questioned, stopped and questioned on not just let me see some ID, but questioned on who you are, what's your descent, what's your nationality. And the benefit of this, you would already know those answers, but there's going to come a time where the citizens are going to be questioned. And it happened in other countries. It occurred in other countries. You know, we always use Germany for an example.
Yes.
It occurred. It occurred right here in these states. It occurred in New Orleans. It occurred in different areas. So don't think that because it's not modern day talk that it's not really necessary like that. And not just that you know the answer, that's not even good enough. And not that you have a nationality card, that's not good enough either. You're gonna have to be able to explain these things in time. So we hear the term astrology. So from a astrology perspective, astrology is not a book. It's really not a lesson book, but it expresses a government,
Absolutely.
which I call a celestial government.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But it's still a government.
Yes.
So government is not just pertaining to people or administration of buildings and people sitting there making laws, right? Governments is on many different scales. However, so there's a divine government. So if there's a divine government, there's a divine constitution. However, astrology just represents a descent form of the divine constitution and the divine government. So now you're dealing with the star or celestial system. All right. So in brief, you know, you have 7 major ruling planets.
Yes.
All right. So the number 7 is important because you're going to see that system of government in the physical, symbolic with the government and the celestial government and the divine government. So it all runs hand in hand. We need to know the descent of where our physical government come from. What constitutes the physical government? So you got 7 major ruling planets. So in sequence with that, in harmony with that, you have 7 acts.
That's right.
Or 7 articles.
That's right.
The Constitution of the United States is the same.
Yep.
You have 7 articles.
That's right.
And then you have what you call the Bill of Rights, which people mistakenly refer to it as the Constitution,
It's not.
but they're amendments to the Constitution,
Yes.
where an amendment does become a part of the whole. However, you need to know the process of that, where originally 7 articles constituted the Constitution of the United States. And that was enough. Just like we have 7 acts, but that's not all we have in the Moorish Science Temple of America.
No.
But that's keeping in line with divine order. So we have to understand where the 7 comes from. Number 1, numero uno, is the beginning, what they call the alpha. In astrology is Aries, which is what we refer to as the first house. All right, so Aries, keywords is, anybody know?
What's that? Say that again.
Aries, keyword in astrology?
Ram.
No, the keyword is I am.
I am. Right. I'm
Right.
sorry. Yeah.
So I am,
I am. Right.
meaning you, meaning me, meaning us, from a plural perspective. From an individual perspective is you, I am, which is symbolized by the ram of
Yeah.
what you were saying.
Hi,
All right, but Aries initiates.
Yeah.
So you correlate that to the seasons and you have what you call spring equinox. Spring,
Yes.
which means to spring forth,
That's right.
means to start or to initiate. So number 1 initiates, that begins, that's number 1, right? So that's how order, numerology, words, that's how everything starts off. That's how we perceive things in this world. So showing you, correlating into scriptures, when they asked Jesus, who was he?
He said, I am.
I am that I am. Then when they asked him, who sent you? He said, I am that I am sent me. So it's code words, again, not caught up into Christian mythology, but showing you the astrology in even the scriptures of the Bible on where that's going.
Absolutely.
Because Jesus represents justice.
That's
and I'm
right.
going to explain that in 1 second. So that's number 1. Not going to go through all of them. That's going to be another lesson. But I want to go to at least the 5th house. So Aries, first house, right? Article 1, which are the laws. That's who initiates the laws. That's the foundation of government in the physical. Congress, according to United States of America government. In our domestic side, we got the Grand Sheik and the chairman. Then correlates on a plural, the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple. That's Act 1, Article 1, Aries.
Yes, sir.
Islam.
Yes, sir.
I want to go to Act 5. This organization, because this is an organization.
Mhm.
Organization pertains to organisms or organs. So each individual are organs. Every member is an organ,
Yes.
is what that means.
Yes.
Together, plural, we constitute an organization. So it says this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and the Constitution.
Yes.
Not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws.
And Constitution.
Listen to what it says. Not to cause any confusion. That can go two different ways because people have said, well, obey the laws. You're causing confusion by going outside the box or by talking what you talk. This is what I've heard. However, it will cause confusion by following truth because majority of the people don't follow the truth. So if you follow the truth, it will cause confusion. So be careful on how you interpret things. But so it doesn't mean don't follow the truth because the truth causes confusion. No, that's not what he's saying. You want to follow the truth because it's more majority within truth than it is in falsehood on a metaphysical scale.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to be bamboozled by the thought of what physical people say and do and how they think. That's back to that monkey see, monkey do demonstration. You look at the majority people and say, well, the crowd is over there. So you will say the majority is over there. But that's just from a finite point of view. Islam. Of the said government, but to obey hereby. To obey hereby, right? So that's Act 5. Yes. So that's Leo.
That's right.
What we call the fifth house.
That's the big.
The fifth house, symbolized by Leo, the lion, right, is expressiveness. That's the nature of Leo. I will.
I will. That's right.
That's the key word for Leo or the fifth house. You should do that.
You say, I will.
I will.
Okay, so looking at it wrong. So what is I create then?
You can create,
Okay.
Right. You initiate.
but its key word is I will.
Okay.
Willing,
Okay.
expressiveness, which also creates is creative energy.
Right.
So it's not wrong. It's just that that's how someone interpreted it.
Okay.
So there's many different authors of astrology books and interpretations, and that's just how they might have interpreted. But it still complements what the majority keywords will say is I will.
Okay.
So the key point of the fifth house is expression. Just think expression. That's what we're just going to go with for the topic of the lesson. So within the fifth house is where you express yourself. Is where you start to get an understanding of yourself, your surroundings, and your environment. And by the time you get to the fifth house within a chart or a lesson or in life, when you get to the fifth stage, it's synonymous in different schools of thought or languages. But when you get to the fifth house, it's when you start to express whatever you were taught, whatever you were programmed to. You start to carry it out in the fifth house. So 1 through 4, 4 deals with the house, your personal house, Cancer, the home, which is a square. Number 4 represents square 4 corners, constitutes 360 from that perspective. But this is 4 represents the home. So that's your nurturing stages of the womb. 5, you start to express yourself. So it takes us to the 6th house. The 6th house, the house of Virgo.
I analyze.
Like you said, I analyze. It's the analytical house, symbolized by the Virgin Mary.
That's right.
Right? So the 6th house complements Act 6, is why I'm bringing this to your attention. Because in the 6th house is where you start to analyze everything that brought you up to that stage, to self. It really represents self. It's not perfected self, but it's when you start to come into yourself. So this is why it says Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary, because Jesus represents 7, which is perfection. And in order for Jesus to be perfected, he had to come out of the state of the 6th house. So Mary only means 6th house, even in the scriptures. Mary only means 6th house. And Jesus was just born from the 6th house, is how you interpret Christianity from the way it's taught. So the 6th house is the analytical stages of self, where you start to analyze everything that you know and start to carry that out. That's why it's referred to as I analyze. It's also referred to in some schools of thought as the house of service.
Yes.
It represents work. It represents labor. And it represents analytical stages of mind development. Now, in the physical sense, people who are under the influence of Virgo are really hard workers. They're physical, earthly beings.
Yes.
They're tied down to tangible earth. Doesn't mean that they can't be spiritual beings, but just the influence, according to their charts, the majority of Virgos are mainly hard, tangible service workers.
Yes. True.
And you'll notice in employment world, corporations, even religions, you'll notice that people who do a lot of the physical work are Virgos, because that's their nature. That's one of their gifts. Think of it as a gift from God. It's one of their natural gifts that they're just workers. They're doers. They like working with their hands. A lot of Virgos like working with their physical hands. They're in construction, cleaning. Even if that's not their occupation at home, they're always cleaning. They're always keeping things tidy. That's usually more of a Virgo nature. They can't sit still. They always got to be doing something. They like hard physical work. So the Act 6 represents work in service. This is why I want to explain this. The house of service must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So now it's a little history lesson within there he's giving you, but that's the analytical stage of where you need to be. That is the heart of this movement. Listen what I'm saying. Act 6 is the heart of this movement. So it's not by chance that it's in sequence to Act 6, because Act 6 represents work in service. We're here to labor, which is work in service, for our government. For our government. Not just for our temple, not just for our movement, but for our government. We are part and parcel, going through the stages of becoming part and parcel for service, for work in service. You know, hear that term is not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. All right, so that mentality is government. That's how government is actually viewed. He said, take your place in the affairs of men. So it's not to come into this. We didn't come into this to receive. We actually came into this, we were initiated into this to do work.
That's right.
To work for the government and to become the government.
Absolutely.
We're only going to become the government by doing work.
That's right.
And in order to do that, you have to analyze the issues of the government. And this is, just listen to what I'm saying. The analytical stages of Virgo. I analyze. What do you analyze? You analyze crises within yourself or your surrounding. Is what the 6th house represents. So you analyze whatever the issues are. You only analyze something that there's a discrepancy. You only analyze, or analyze goes into meditation, mediation, or heavy thought. It's like editing something. So after all the work is done and now you need to edit something, you're editing what is wrong with the scenario. So dealing with self is, from a self perspective, whatever is wrong with you is where the 6th house comes in at, because that's what you're supposed to analyze. You're supposed to look at what's wrong and work on fixing what's wrong. That's how the 6th house is dealt with in astrology. That's why they're good workers and work with their hands, because they physically like to fix stuff. If something's dirty, they want to clean it, because that's part of the analytical state of fixing, of cleaning, correcting something that's wrong. Mechanics, the same thing. So the mindset of Virgo is to fix what's wrong with a scenario. So from a citizenship perspective in law, we're being invoked into this government to fix the problems of the government. Also fix the problems within ourselves. We're supposed to do that anyway. But however, we are the government. So the problem with the government largely is because of what's wrong with us. The people are the government. So the issues of man is the issues of government. It's one and the same. Government starts at the house. Are we understanding this so far?
Yes.
So Drew Ali told us that we were branded Negroes, black, colored folks, and the Ethiopians. These names were given to slaves by slaveholders. Gave us a time reference. Told us this is a new era time now. Now all men now must proclaim their free national name and religion to be recognized by the government in which they live. This is the main issue of government. Right here. Act 6. And we went over it last week because if we are the essential part, if we are the main ingredient of government, but we're the ones that's deaf, dumb, and blind, so to speak, then that means that the government is at a standstill because the key ingredient is being ignored or not being expressive. We're not the dominant voice in government, which is the problem. If we're the key ingredients to the government, but our voice is not heard, then that will reflect the outcome of government. Yes, sir.
So, having said that, excuse me. All praise is due to Allah and honor to Noble Drew Ali, to the Grand Sheikh, and all that pertains to Islam. And the Grand Sheikh is. Would that be in a sense of saying, like the government that we are listening to right now, because it is primarily European and whatnot, would that be like saying that we actually operate now under a shadow government as opposed to the true government, which is us?
Yes and no. I would say that we're not really acting in government capacity at all.
Correct.
And I'm going to explain that. But I know why you're asking and where you're going, so I will agree with your thought on that. Absolutely. Right. And again, I'm going to come back and explain that further when I get to that portion.
Thank you.
Islam. So again, we are teaching our people their nationality. That's the work part of it. That's the service part of it. We're trying to do what we can to perfect this government. And the way to do that is by teaching our people, teaching the rest of our people that are under the influence of Negro, Black, and Color, teaching them that they are not that. By correcting each one's concept is part of correcting the issue of government. It's very simple, but it's very hard to do. But the concept of knowing what has to be done is rooted right in Act 6. I'm trying to express that and get that across to us so that we can really understand what needs to be done or where's the work at that needs to be done in this movement. Or for an individual coming in saying, well, what can I do? I want to help. What can I do? And I will revert you right back to Act 6. This is where the work really needs to be done. And even for Moors that's been in this movement for decades and years, it still goes right back to Act 6 because plurally we have not arrived at that consensus and awareness and having that recognized and respected that we are not Negro, Black, and Colors. So that's where the work continuously needs to be done at. It doesn't mean to ignore all the other work that needs to be done, but meaning that that is the main issue. If we go back to the divine warning, the prophet says that again. It's only one supreme issue for my people to recognize that which was lost, and it comes only through the above statements.
That's right.
He said, then the lion and the lamb can lay down together in yonder hills. Going right back to that divine warning, and we talked about this last week, this administration of government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens, right? Again, this is a new era of time now. And now all men must. So, in order for us to activate Virgo, we must analyze everything that occurred before we got to the 6th house. within self and within, historically speaking, within the stages of this in our government. That's why slavery was very important, and he mentioned that in there because that is the nucleus of the issues. We are to correct slavery. If I had to just use a short, brief terminology, we're here to correct slavery, to reverse slavery. Is what Abraham Lincoln was famous for, what Noble Drew Ali is famous for. Within us, maybe not within everybody else, but it's for a reason. Because that's still not the preferred agenda of this government, even our own. So it's not the popular demand. So we're a small chosen a few that was initiated and chosen, because a lot of us are here and it's not even our own will while we're here. We have been chosen and summoned to come take this seat and proclaim our nationality because we have been initiated to do this work.
Absolutely.
Which is beyond our personal or individual will.
Absolutely.
And we're still trying to, most of us are still trying to figure it out, trying to understand it, trying to feel our way through this. See what part even if we came in for a traffic ticket, that was just a vehicle that was used. That was just a stage that was used to get us to a certain point. But the traffic ticket is not the focus point. That's why I don't focus on it. But I understand that there's different scenarios that's used to bring us to this point. So going into the homework aspect of this, how did the prophet make us part and parcel of the government? Which we had a couple demonstrations on already. So,
I got a question. Or you-
no, I'm going into that phase
It's
now.
rhetorical.
Yeah, the first part was a recap. So just going into the homework aspect now. And from a lawful perspective, he didn't make us part and parcel. We have to make ourselves part and parcel. He gave us what it takes
To me.
so that we can be part and parcel.
That's right.
Remember, each tongue must confess his own. All right, so just clearing that up. He declared the nation is what he did.
That's right.
He gave us the structure, the formula, the platform
Mhm.
is what he did for the part and parcel acts to take place.
Absolutely.
So understanding now, how do we become part and parcel? Our nationality, oh, you got a statement,
No,
question?
I was gonna say, bring us back into the constitutional form of government.
Absolutely, yes. And we arrived at that understanding. So what we want to do now is make sure that everybody know the process behind it. How do we be recognized as that? Because you could tell somebody you are part and parcel to the government, or you are a citizen of the United States of America. They might say, no, you're not. It might become to a legal challenge on mine's for yours. So what we're trying to do is get people to the understanding of how was that legally so, and how to defend that, what you just said. I agree with you, but we want to make sure everyone knows. Islam?
Islam.
Because these are the most misunderstood things.
Mm.
You go and talk to a European, he gonna tell you, yeah, you're a citizen, but you're a citizen under the 14th Amendment.
Exactly.
So they're not going to argue with you and say you're not, but they're going to say, yeah, the 14th Amendment made you equal and free. Now, if you, not talking to you personally, but if you can't challenge what that person said, that allegation they made, then that makes you a corporate artifice, wardship. That makes you a foreigner. So we know that that's not the case within us, but we have to prove it because law is based on what you could prove. It's not based off theory, and they want to see that you can prove it. So I just want to point out something real quick. American, the word American, because our nationality is Moorish American. And we're Moorish American because we're descendants of Moroccans and born in America. So that's what the terminology American comes in at from us. American is a part of our nationality, which is part of our citizenship. We're American. We're specifically Moorish American because Moorish is our descent, but we are American. Let's not confuse that. Because there's a lot of people, Moors, saying that they're not American. And if you say your nationality is Moorish American, how can you legally say that you're not American? So again, understanding. So American gives several different, I'm going to the Webster Unabridged Dictionary, 20th century. American as a noun is an aboriginal or one of the various copper-colored natives found on the American continent by the Europeans. This is the original application of the name. That's not me saying that, that's the definition saying that. Said that's the original application of the name American. So again, you are Moorish American, not because the definition said that, but I'm just gonna bring this further home. So it says an aboriginal of the copper colored, of one of the copper colored races, which is still colored. Not giving this credit, just showing you that this is an earlier definition of the word American. And it's not by chance. I was in the flea market this morning and two Europeans were standing there talking, and one European had purchased something, paying his phone bill, and then the other one, he was saying to him, yeah, you're not going to charge me tax on that, are you? They talking to each other. So the one that was making the sell said to him, he says, well, I don't see no peace pipe with you. So the other year lost the other European. He's like, what you mean? He said, you don't look native to me. He said, what that got to do with it? He said, because according to the Constitution, only the Native Americans don't pay taxes. So then the other European said, well, what's native? That's what he said. What's native then? So they just going back and forth with each other, you know, and just to make a long story short, it was a joke, but he was serious. And he was just saying, listen, I'm not obligated to not charge you tax unless you can prove to me that you're Native American. So that's what that whole thing was about. So again, that's just things that I'm sitting right there, you know, so I'm just listening. And really they wanted me to chime in, but I wasn't really interested in that. But just to show you that he went by the law. Oh, I don't want to say the law, again, correction. But he just went by a reference of law. So back to the word American. Number two, it says an American-born descendant of European settlers. That's the second definition. Well, they're saying European settlers for a reason. They're saying the descendants of the settlers, because the settlers are colonizers, they're foreigners. They came from somewhere else. But their children were born on the land, so they're considered Americans, but not them. So that's also something that you need to rationalize if you haven't already done that. Absolutely, it doesn't. But it does make them eligible for citizenship. Just like two so-called foreigners
It's called nationalization.
come over here, but no, not that yet. Two foreigners come over here, so to speak, and they have a child here. Now they might have crossed the border by boat. They might have snuck over here according to the system.
So,
They're not citizens.
no,
But if their child was born here, the child is eligible for citizenship,
It's
but not the parent.
Islam.
So that's pretty much what they're saying.
Mhm.
Islam, brother.
It's not. So that make it two type of Americans, or just it's really just one.
Good question. You have what they call classes of citizens. That's the exact terminology. People don't understand that, but in citizenship, they're broken down into classes. That's what the Truth A1 is all about, that we talk about. A1. A1 is the highest class.
That's right.
That's like the pure.
Aboriginal.
Yes, it's supposed to be, but the system is all tainted. So they play with stuff and use stuff to where it works for them too. But A1 is supposed to be the classification A1. It's not just with people, but anything dealing with A1 is supposed to be like top notch. Like the highest class you can go is A1. So in United States Codes of Laws, we call it A1, Truth A1, which is the highest class of citizenship according to foreign relations is concerned. But there are different classes of citizens. That's where the 14th Amendment also comes in at, because even though they're saying that so-called blacks can now become citizens, the type of citizens they become are what they call 3/5 of a person. So they're not a whole, or they're not considered a natural citizen, because that's another classification of citizen. Natural citizen, that is the only citizen according to the Constitution. So if you're not considered a natural citizen, then technically you're not a citizen.
At the end of the day, it's only one.
At the end of the day, there's only one, but there's still different classes, like, firstborn, natural born, like what we just saying. If you're born through naturalization or you naturalized, they still say, okay, you're cloaked with citizenship, but now you're a different class of naturalized citizen. So a naturalized citizen doesn't have as much so-called privileges or rights as a natural citizen. So according to the type of citizen you're recognized as, and they don't advertise this on TV, so nobody really examines what type of citizen that they're viewed as. You can call yourself whatever type of citizen you want, but that don't count. You need to know what's on file for you, what's at the Census Bureau. You need to know how they classify you in their system, even at the job or wherever else. You need to know Social Security. You need to know what class of citizen that they acknowledge you as, because that's how they treat you. That's how they judge what you deserve, what you don't deserve. And even in court, that's how they judge whether they want to hear the case or not hear the case. They want to, how they're going to deliberate the jury. All of this is based off status, who you are. Status, who you are, i.e., what class of citizen are you? That's what status means. Islam.
Does that mean they got plans on naturalizing everybody?
No. And they can't, because Article 1, Section 8 sets the standards for naturalization in the Constitution. and they do what they want pertaining to naturalization, but it doesn't mean, remember, people are just put in a book a certain way just for business purposes. However, one day that's going to come to an end. One day is really going to matter on what the book says and what the individual says, and that's going to determine, the outcome of a situation. We're not fully there yet, but I'll just explain certain scenarios where it does come into play. But most people are classified wrong, but most people don't challenge it. So therefore, they get away with just sticking somebody under whatever statute classification that they want because it's convenient for them. And on the other hand, the individual don't challenge it, so they're not forced to go change that. That's where proclaiming your nationality comes in very important, is because now you're going back and you're correcting not just the name, not just your free national name, but you also correcting what class of citizen you are. And now that's documented, and that can be proven on the record. It could be cross-examined, and it could be something that you can come back and argue later when it comes to status. Now just think, for a person who has nothing on the record, never did any proclamation, didn't proclaim anything, they're in the system as Negro, Black, or colored. That's their class. Their class is, i.e., a slave. Now, they don't realize that because they never been challenged on it, but the way they're treated is that of a slave. That is the only expectation of the individual, because that's all they know. So they don't expect to be treated any differently. Just like somebody growing up in the hood, growing up in the ghetto, the cops harass you every day. They treat you like this. They throw you on the wall. They stop you, ask you your name. They want to search your car. If that's all you know, that's all you know. You're not looking at that as, I'm a slave, that's why they're doing that. That's just your expectation. That's just what you're accustomed to. That's your environment. So you don't challenge that against anything else. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing with living the life of Negro, Black, and colored. That's our only expectation. So we don't measure it by anything else. We think that Black is supposed to be treated this way. We might not agree with it, but we at least accept it. We know that the European don't get treated that way, but we think that it's supposed to be like that because he's European.
Exactly.
So that's the expectation of how he looks, how he dresses, how he get treated. So we accept that. So in our mind, this was what white and black means. White means superior. So we expect the European to be treated differently, i.e. better, because that's our expectation. We were taught not to challenge what he do. We were taught that he has a bigger house and he has more money. We accept that. Where in our reality, it becomes normal. That's what I mean by expectation. So that all has to change within how we raise our children. So when you talk about being equal, then there's no color within that. You deserve everything that anyone else have. It has nothing to do with color. Islam, Shakin.
Now, I was gonna ask a question, but you
Yeah.
kind of touched on it when you said about the court cases. Excuse me. That's the reason why if you don't challenge it. It's like they won't hear your case. They'll just push it along, but they'll never tell you why. Because it hasn't been corrected. You don't know to challenge certain things.
Yeah.
But you kind of, I was gonna ask them, but you kind of do it out there.
Islam. So American Islam.
Excuse me. In court cases, the judge always asks you, are you a citizen of the United States?
Mhm.
And you just say yes and not define what you're saying.
Yes.
He classify you as a corporate citizen.
14th Amendment.
Yeah.
You don't argue with you.
Yes.
That's just 14th Amendment talk.
And
You
you're
agree.
known
You
as a
agree.
slave.
Exactly. You agreed to the amendment is what you did. And whatever is not challenged is assumed. And that's what goes on the record. So even though a word might have several different meanings, if you don't even specify how you're using that word, it's going to be assumed to whatever it is to their convenience. Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. So I defined the word American out of the Webster Unabridged. Now I want to define it from the Black's Law Dictionary, 3rd edition. It says, pertaining to the Western Hemisphere. I'm going to just back up, give you a chance. American, still on the word American. It says, pertaining to the Western Hemisphere. Now I want you to listen to this closely. This is the Law Dictionary, Black's Law, that's giving you this definition now. The first one said copper color races, etc. This is going to give you another twist. An American, pertaining to the Western Hemisphere, or in a more restricted sense to the United States. Here's a court case, Beardsley versus Selected Men of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now, I want, again, when you read this stuff, you got to really dissect it. It says pertaining to the Western Hemisphere. Do you understand what the Western Hemisphere is? I know we went over there in a couple meetings, but when you understand geography now and what the Western Hemisphere is, it kind of throws you in a whole nother broader geographical area than what the question you said the judge might ask you, are you a citizen of the United States? Is he asking you or she asking you, are you a citizen of the Western Hemisphere? No.
No.
But that's what the term means. We talk about it all the time when we talk about North, South, Central America, the adjoining islands, and Al Maghrib, the furthest west.
That's what we talk.
That's what you're talking about. That is the West,
That's the West.
the furthest west.
Yes.
However, that comprises the United States,
Of America.
plural,
Plural. That's right.
but it's not specific to the constitutional society known as the United States of America. So you got to be careful. If you just throw words out there and don't explain it, you could be saying anything. And then they might agree, and because it wasn't explained, they just check off what they want behind the scenes, and then you wondering, well, why I didn't get a favorable reply? And it's because you just said that you was a citizen of the United States. You ain't explaining. You don't know how detrimental that is, because you pretty much said, I'm a stateless person. Where it sounds legit to you because, yeah, I'm a citizen of the United States. It sounds like the government, but it's not. It does not recognize any constitutional society in the Western Hemisphere. So you really just said that you are not tied to any constitutional body of law. And it removed you from Act 6 because the government Drew Ali was talking about. You removed yourself from that.
Exactly.
Just by saying, just generally speaking, semantic word, I'm a citizen of the United States. That means nothing. That's like saying I'm a citizen of Africa. I'm a citizen of the East. Yeah, or what did you really say? Nothing. No different from what they said was they brought us over here from Africa. And we just accepted that and still talking about that.
Absolutely.
Africa's the motherland. Well, where's your descent?
Right.
Where did they bring you from? That means you're a stateless person again.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know where you came from and you don't know where you're at. So that's a stateless person. They call that vagabond and they call that a wanderer.
Exactly.
And that's what Negro, Black, and colors are legally. But listen to the full definition of American in the law book. It says the term American, and it's in parentheses. All right, so just keep that in mind. The word American included all classes of citizens, native and naturalized, irrespective of where they originally came from. This is why they don't really want to touch up on this type of stuff with those who really know, because it's so much loopholes in what they claim that they'll be looking real silly to try to challenge that. So they won't. They're just going to avoid the issue. And that's how they treat this every day, case by case. It's really silly when it comes down to it. How they portray it to be is silly, is what I'm talking about. It's even sillier for us to not have an understanding of this. And that's what keeps them in business. Now, the thing about the Black's Law Dictionary is the definitions give you a case, Supreme Court cases on how this was actually interpreted. So that means that the word American actually was argued before in court. So they're giving you the outcome of how that was viewed is what you're reading. That's the difference between the Black's Law Dictionary and a regular unabridged dictionary. The unabridged dictionary is just an opinion. It's just a secondary opinion. However, the Black's Law Dictionary tells the judge how this was viewed already. So if you're giving him the reference of Black's Law Dictionary 3rd edition, he has to look at that case now, those footnotes, and say, all right, well, American was already argued, and this was the overall opinion of that, or how that word was generally used, or how the government, so to speak, views this word. So when we're talking and rationalizing things, and we look these words up, we're telling you how this was already viewed. This is not an opinion, or we're saying, okay, well, this is just something out here that we need to challenge. This has already been challenged a long time ago. But they still not talking this. They only talk it as if you revert them back to it and say, okay, this is 1869, 1905, whatever. This was already talked about. So now you're compelled to this opinion. You're not compelled to whatever you want to think. That's the difference. That's how you use that. Islam.
On that topic, would that not be a form of res judicata when it comes down to referring to the Black Law Dictionary in its entirety versus a case law? I mean, res judicata or stare decisis, meaning that thing has been adjudicated on already.
Yes, but you still want to, because it's still colored, as you know. If something works or something is written as a good reference, then you can refer to it, you can use it as that. If it's colored, then you want to stay away from it. So it doesn't mean that we're accepting it all as true. Or, part of the case could have been colored, and maybe part of the case was true. So you only want to pull out the part of the case that's true in what you would call in support to whatever you're stating.
That's right.
So we're not using it in its whole entirety. We're only in support of a statement or a definition or whatever. You have to clear that up. Because again, they might take that and say, well, you referred to the Black's Law Dictionary, so I'm gonna refer to this. So it seems like you agree to that book. You know, they could play games with you that way too. So everything is not truth. We know man is truth and falsehood. So everything written is going to be like that. So we got to go into that Virgo mentality and analyze before we make a move.
Islam.
You know, Islam. Did you have your hand up?
Yes,
Islam.
please. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna drop back a little bit. I didn't want to clear out my question before because I didn't want to throw you off from what you were saying, but
Mhm.
going back to the citizenship part where you in court, my question is when we are asked if we're a citizen of the United States
Mhm.
in court, what would actually be the proper response to that? So, in opposed to just saying yes, of course, that's not what we should do. So what would be the proper response to a question like that from the judge?
Well, most of the time they're going to ask you a US. They're not really going to ask you that question. It's only a few times where they might ask you that if that's the subject matter of the conversation, but usually they're not going to ask you that. And to answer that, I would keep it just like it is on your nationality card or within your document, or I'm a citizen of the Free National Republic of the United States of America.
Okay.
That's how I will respond, only to specify it and clear it up,
Okay.
That's right.
right?
Yes.
So, Shaken?
Yeah, I got some questions. Okay. We have this back and forth game that they play in court. Right? And a lot of people put emphasis on whether or not they cross over to the bar or they enter in the jurisdiction of the court. But like I was showing the brothers last night, the Miami Federal Courthouse is in the shape of a ship.
Mm-hmm.
So the question now stands is like, when you walk in the building,
Mm-hmm.
are you under their jurisdiction? Because you boarding a ship, basically, metaphorically. And
Are you asking a question or you making
I'm
a
saying
statement?
it's like, because it's like literally you're literally boarding a ship and metaphor. I don't know if you've seen it before, but the building itself is in the shape of a ship.
Yeah,
So you go in there and you play these semantic games with them, you know what I mean? Instead of stepping into an admiralty jurisdiction, how can you avoid that? Because you automatically submit to the jurisdiction once you walk into the building.
okay, good question. And it's not about Miami because that's a corporate city limit. All right. It's all of them. Any municipality, regardless of if it's Miami, if it's Brooklyn, if it's whatever, it's all a ship. So some towns actually refer to the name is township. So people just say town for short, but it's a township. It's all a ship. And it's all under Admiralty Maritime jurisdiction.
Yes.
So that court, just because it's in the shape of a ship, is not treated any differently from any other municipality throughout the country.
I get that. I'm just saying they just was a little bit bolder to
Yeah.
in that shape.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, so how can you just avoid, or is it?
Do you think they lost any business by them being bold?
I'm sorry?
Do you think they lost any business by them just being outward bold like that?
Not at all.
Because the people are asleep. So it don't make a difference. The people who board that ship is the same people that board any other ship throughout the country. So the fact that they coming out and just illustrating that don't mean nothing to them. They just keeping it real, but the people just sleep. Now, how do you avoid that? That's why I said I don't want you to focus on that particular courtroom because they all the same. You have to treat them all the same.
So my question
You
is,
have to let your documents precede you to explain how you're boarding the ship. See, it's a way to board the ship without being subject to the ship.
Absolutely.
So that's where letting your documents precede you and putting your status on the record and challenging is called countersuing. Is what, remember we talked about being paralegals and attorneys and, last week. This is where we might say challenge the jurisdiction. All right, that's popular with us, but they might just say countersue. So you need to think from that perspective. Whenever you're challenged, and I don't want to say whenever because you got to deal with the art of war, or you got to choose your battles. But you have to countersue some of the claims that's against you. Because if you're summoned to go to court, you're being sued. It's a suit. Regardless if it's a traffic ticket or not. A traffic ticket is a suit. You're being sued. So when people generally, the general Americans, when they're sued, the way they challenge a suit is by countersuing. So we have to get in the habit of countersuing. That was part of our slavery. It wasn't bred in us to do that. To challenge, period. So countersuing is the legal process of challenging a suit that's against you. And you'll see the pattern when you're dealing with other stuff. You try to sue somebody, especially a corporation or Europeans, try to sue them for something. Then you're going to get a letter from their attorney where they're countersuing you. Even though they didn't start it, but that's how they're going to end it. Because that's how you neutralize a claim against you, by countersuing. So the ship, the township, whoever is suing you, you have to countersue them. You don't have to use that terminology. But the response, the way you challenge it, is in the nature of countersuing. Regardless of how you might. Some people respond by sending in what they call an affidavit of fact. That's not a countersue. That's not even a challenge of jurisdiction. It is in the nature of it, but the protocol or procedure of law, they don't count it as a countersue or notice to void or any of those things, because the affidavit of fact just means affirmation of truth. So it just means these are the facts, but it is not the protocol for countering a suit against you. So it's going to be, we talked about classes of citizens, right? So they're going to treat it a certain way and say, oh, affidavit of fact, okay, stick that in that folder over here. Now the case still goes on. That's the difference between a motion. So motion means move to court. So this might be the file over here for motions. So affidavit of fact is not going to go in the same folder as the motion. So it'd be treated differently. The way the next step in the case might not go the way you want it to because you didn't file the necessary documentation. You have to tell the court what you want the court to do. The court does, that's another thing where we've been subject, just like the mindset of government, we think we subordinate to government.
No.
We think we subordinate to court too. So we're afraid to go to court. And it's a natural response. Understand that, but meaning that we usually don't know how to properly navigate our way through a court. And with the court is neutral. The court is it can't move until somebody moves the court. The judge is not out for you.
No.
So you have to tell the judge, hey, listen, this is your next move. It's like playing chess.
That's right.
You have to move the pieces. So you have to tell the court, hey, listen, man, this is what they did. They shouldn't have did this because that's in violation of this statute or this law. So because they did something that was inconsistent, I want you to do a 12B, motion to dismiss, because lack of subject matter jurisdiction or whatever, lack of material fact or whatever. So you need to move that court, dismiss the case because they didn't do what they were supposed to do properly. So the judge got to look at that and say, you're right. So I moved the court to dismiss this because what he said was right. That's how the court's supposed to operate. But when we get a motion or suit or something against us, we just show up. And when you show up, then that means you agreeing to that ship, the jurisdiction of that ship. Because even a traffic ticket, on the back of a ticket or the front, however it's in your state, they tell you that if you choose to plead not guilty, then you must notify the court prior to 7 days of the court date appearance. So most people don't respond, and you automatically consider guilty simply because you didn't notify the court and tell them that you were not guilty. It's that simple. So when someone who just walks in the court, they already walk in there guilty. They might ask you again, how do you plead? You might have another opportunity, but you already agreed to the jurisdiction of the court. Some courts will you know how they got plea hearings where the first time you just go in and you plead. Some jurisdictions don't even have that. If you walk in there, you didn't send no documentation to, they can have court right then and there. But you was, I'm not guilty. I'm not pleading guilty. Well, you're supposed to notify the court. Today is trial or whatever they want to do. We're hearing cases today. If you was not guilty, then you were supposed to notify the court. So that means that you violated or ignored or acquiesced to the summons itself, which acquiescence made you guilty of whatever they was charging you with or alleging that you was charged with, and the jurisdiction that they are assuming that you were under. That has to be challenged before court even start. You understand that? So I want to go to this word government. So the word government, and I'm going to go back to Acts 6. Let's start with Act 5. Excuse me. This organization of Moorish Science Temple is not to cause any confusion or overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. This is a new era of time now. All men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which we live and the nations of the earth. And then we know we are part and parcel of the government. We already know that, right? So let's explain and define what the word government actually means. It's a Latin term, Latin word, and it derives from the word governor. Governor means to control or to steer. To govern. Gouverner, to govern. The direction, regulation, control, restraint, or the exercise of authority. The administration of public affairs according to laws and usages or by arbitrary edicts. So there you have the word, the administration of public affairs. That's government. So the administration of public affairs. Back to Drew Ali again. Take your place in the affairs of government.
Yes.
Or affairs of men. He
Yeah,
said both.
I'm sorry.
Yes, same.
No, but he said that too. Just different passage.
Yes.
Then he said, this administration of government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens, right? This is Drew Ali's words, and I'm going back into the definition again. The system of the polity in a state that form of fundamental rules and principles by which a nation or state is governed as a republican government. A republic form of government. That's why when you ask the answer to what type of citizen, I'm a citizen of the free national republic of the United States of America. So that specifies everything the first time. Every time you refer to it, you don't have to go back to that. But for first, I would state it that way because it covers true citizenship.
Absolutely.
And it covers the fact that you're a free natural citizen.
That's right.
The word free is very important. So it also says an empire, kingdom, or state, any territory over which the right of sovereignty is exercised. We spoke about that earlier. The right of governing or administering the laws. So I want to stop there. The right of governing or administering the laws. So again, this administration of government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens. All right, so we are being prepared to be the new administration of the public affairs. I'm reinterpreting now what Drew Ali said and going into the definition of what it actually means. And it's highlighting the question and the homework on how did we become citizens of the Free National Republic of the United States of America. And without going into any case, and I hope I proved the point that a document doesn't make you a citizen. So people might be looking for what document or what did he say that made us a citizen, and it's not necessarily founded on that. It's founded on the fact that you're taking your place in the affairs of men and becoming who you really are.
That's right.
Constitutes you becoming part and parcel to the government.
That's right.
So it's not a document, it's not a case, it's not a statute, it's not a paragraph, it's not a statement, it's not a trust agreement, it's not something that's hidden in the bolts, the Great Seal of the government or any of that type of stuff that we might be looking for. We're looking for something that validates us being a citizen. And Drew Ali didn't write that way, and he's funded in the law. He's rooted in the law. So anything he says or do, it has to be complementary to organic natural law, and that's where he's coming from. So by us being part and parcel of the government, we must live the life according to what? According to the nature of the law. So I just showed us what is a citizen of what is a United States, what is an American citizen? I just showed you that, right? United States versus United States of America, two different things. So how did we become a citizen to it? We're the essential part of it. We're descendants of the Moroccans and born in America. We are the ancient people who constitute the government. We are the native Aboriginal people, the color, copper color, all of the above constitutes the answer on how are we part and parcel to the government. this is how we have to explain it, because if you come from any document, they're going to get you on that.
Absolutely.
And that also will challenge the 14th Amendment by them saying, well, you became a citizen by way of the 14th Amendment. You can go right back to the one definition of American. Say, well, American is the Western Hemisphere.
Not federal.
And according to that definition on how the Supreme Court ruled, that all classes of citizens are American citizens, irrespectively if they were naturalized. So if all men are created equal, endowed by their creator, then everybody's a citizen that's on this land, regardless of 14th Amendment. That means if the 14th Amendment never took place, it's enough background to show that you're still a citizen of the United States. So the 14th Amendment can't make you a citizen and can't take you away from being a citizen. It has nothing to do with citizenship. It's how you argue or challenge them on that. Yes.
I was just writing along one of the grand sheets from the land gas territory.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're quoted Title 18. I forgot what the subsection that says that the 14th Amendment was never ratified. There's a certified copy of it, and it would say it like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, they're trying to work the 14th Amendment.
No, that is true.
Never was,
Yeah. But the nature, I'm gonna go a step further. The reference points in the documents is great, but what's even better is to understand the nature of the law, or what they call the spirit of the law. So the 14th Amendment was never ratified because it wasn't never ratified according to the Constitution's ratification process, which makes it null and void. That's very simple. And to go a step further, the 14th Amendment does not reflect the virtues and the spirit of American jurisprudence. Therefore, it never was eligible to be made a party to the Constitution. It doesn't reflect the spirit of the Constitution. So the Constitution itself says that it only can be amended to make it more perfect. So you can't amend something to the Constitution that takes away something that the Constitution already guaranteed. So again, when they see that you know the organic process of something, then it's not even about a document anymore. They can't put that on you, regardless if it was, like you said, that the brother got a certified copy that it wasn't ratified, which is good, like I said. But once you could take it a step further, you don't need that certified copy.
No.
Because you become the certified copy.
Absolutely.
You have to challenge the integrity of the statements that they make. They didn't need a 14th Amendment when they came and colonized this land.
No. No.
And they actually used the organic law to declare themselves to be free and independent.
That's right.
So what did they use? What statutes and ratifications did they use for that? They just said that we declared these truths to be self-evident. Which that shouldn't be challenged, because that should be truth to anybody. So technically, a Moorish American should be able to stand up and say the same thing in court. Well, you know, Your Honor, I hold these truths to be self-evident. I can't be Negro, black, and colored, because nobody can. And nobody can be white either.
No.
Based off that statement, they might say, well, what do you mean by that? But they know what you mean. But you just challenge that. Nobody can be Negro, black, and colored. Why? The man was made in the image and after the likeness of God Allah. Where did that come from? If anyone demands that you must be that, then they're going against the Constitution themselves.
That's right.
which means that they're still subject. And then you could tell them that they don't qualify to hold office here if they don't support the Constitution, which their oath claims.
That's what they took the oath to. That's one.
But just understanding from the nature perspective. But you don't come out and challenge them that way. You just show your intelligence.
That's right.
And when they see the intelligence is when they don't really tend to come at you that way anymore, because it would be incriminating to themselves to keep trying to push that on you. But they ask you questions, debate you into an agreement, and by the way you answer is what tells them if you understand or you don't. And most of the time not going to go into your response because you're entitled to your response. They just use your response against you. It's incrimination. And we just have to learn that because that's a process that was just put on us through slavery. Islam, Mo.
Yeah, you've actually come back to a part which I kind of had a question before,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't ask it because we kind of got too far away from it.
All right.
But it's sort of like on the same path. My question is, can we be held responsible for what we did before we proclaimed? Like if you're standing in court, you're brought into court
Mm-hmm.
for, let's just say something you did 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the year before you were brought in court, you proclaimed, and now you are standing in another position, you're a person completely. Can they challenge you at the present time based on the fact that you are now proclaimed, you are now a citizen, part parcel to the government, against the things that you did before when you were under the 14th Amendment? Can they still hold that against you at the current time?
Yes and no. They will try. And they will try very hard.
Yes.
However, you can, if you know the right terminology, then you can reverse that. And this is what, without going into too much of how they operate, but just for example, if you proclaim your free national name and religion, right, you're taking on a new birth.
Exactly.
You're being born again. You are not the same individual that you was before, and you're not in the same place that you was before. So the activities of that artificial being or that old self is not necessarily what you agree with now. That could be taken in consideration, and it should be taken in consideration. And you have to know how to enter that into that system that way. For example, people who do that is people, the term baptism is a term that's used in reference to that as one meaning of being born again. Becoming a free man which is used in different Masonic orders, is another example of you having a rebirth. So rebirth is everything. They know it by different words, different terminologies. But people who are part of those type of orders know how to communicate that in court to where the judge is aware and takes that now in consideration, that you had a new birth or you've been born again. And those people usually get a favorable reply because of that. But now you can't just say it and not do it or not have shown proficiency in that either. They will investigate that. They might adjourn the case just to go investigate that. So whatever support information you might have in reference to that, they will look into that too. So they're going to hold you to it. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, he just threw the signal or he just said this. So you know what? I'm going to dismiss this case because he's said what he said. it doesn't work like that. But they will take it in consideration, and if they need to investigate it, then they will stall more time to see exactly if what you're saying is truth or not. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
So that's why affiliations is important when you're dealing with classification and citizenship, because they will take that in consideration in judging the mindset. Because remember, for a crime to exist, it must be a guilty mind, a criminal mind, a guilty mind, which means that it's getting into the degrees of a crime. So that means that it had to be, for a crime to exist, they must prove that you had a guilty mind, that you meant to do what you did.
Intent.
Intent.
Exactly.
All right, that's what a crime is rooted in. So if you are a born again individual and that's not your cup of tea, so to speak, then they would also look at that as, you know, that was influenced by the devil, and the devil has already been prosecuted. So it becomes double jeopardy for them to try that same devil twice. That goes into a higher level of court, not court as meaning different courts, but meaning the individual himself has to be a little bit higher in understanding and to communicate that to them, where you'll know how to consider that double jeopardy. So, Islam Moors, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you. Hopefully that concluded the topic and the homework.
That was great.
I want to thank Brother Omari again for his demonstration, further clarity on the subject matter. Sisters, is everything good in the back? Any announcements? All is well? Salam. Yes, sir.
But Grand Sheik, when you were talking about government, I had a question. The question was, when you went through the administrative aspect, is that what they also means?
Bay means governor or governor. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, again, the individual has to be able to govern him or herself. Governing your own affairs. That's what sovereignty really means. So sovereignty means full accountability and full liability. And a governor should be able to govern his own affairs and have full responsibility, steer his own ship. Because you have ship, as I mentioned earlier, the government, plural, is a ship. The celestial government is a celestial ship. Here on earth, physical, civic perspective, that's also considered a ship. All right, so our body also is another ship. All right, so we have to first, your individual self have to be able to govern your own ship. And that's what sovereignty really is about, being able to govern your own ship. But when you're not able to govern your own ship, then someone else has to govern your ship. And that's when you lose your sovereignty. And that's what a slave is really represented as, one who can't govern his own ship or can't exercise his own will. Same thing. Son. Islam more, so that'll bring us to Brother Omari will come up and read us the additional laws, which will follow prayer, and then we out. Islam.
Islam, most additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheiks and governors and all heads of temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by Prophet Noble Jew Ali before acting upon by any members. Let it be financed property or any line of life that would cause the members to sacrifice, finance, etc. That will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his or her office under heavy restriction, etc. by the prophet or the Grand Sheik. Act 2. All members are to attend their ADEP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, they shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second shall be fined 1 note, which will go into your emergency fund. If a member is working, he or she monthly dues must be paid, and if he or she has money in a bank, they must subscribe for as much as they are able to the Moorish Upliftment Fund because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he or she is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. If he or she does not, he or she is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his or her own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any agitation against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must conform him or herself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his or her 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school becomes guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of the children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with mortar. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam? Let me ask for all members to please rise and face the east. Feet at a 45-degree angle. 5 fingers up on the left, 2 on the right. Repeat after Sheikh and Sneaker. Islam. 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 May Allah find our hearts and minds. That is our ancient forefathers. Divine created principles. This we ask in our holy name. In the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam. Meeting is now closed, Moors.
Wow.